We got, can I call you a USA Boxing rep? I probably should ask you before we started this, but you're an unofficial member of USA Boxing, and you've been putting in a lot of work with everybody involved with this new move that was made in order to make sure that boxing is continued in the Olympic Games. And so I made the announcement for the podcast, today's episode. We were going to have Chris Cugliari right there on the other end.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Also, we were going to have President Tyson Lee as well as Ray Jackson and Amari Jones. We wanted to invite Amari on just to talk about his debut, his Olympic experience. Of course, Tyson Lee wanted him to make the official announcement that you're going to be making for President Lee, and we'll have him come on another time. And we're going to be missing Ray Jackson today as well. We'll invite everybody on this next episode today. We just had some technical difficulties. But all that being said, I'll go ahead and allow you to kind of make the official announcement to what I consider to be to the professional boxing world about what's going on with the boxing Olympics.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be back on. I think it's been about 2 years since I joined virtually, and that was right when World Boxing was founded. And World Boxing in actually end of 2022, but we went public in 2023 as the new International Federation for Olympic-style boxing. And so the news that just broke recently, there was a session for the International Olympic Committee in Athens, Greece this week, and they voted there to include boxing on the program for Los Angeles 2028. And obviously, there's been a lot of discussion over the last few years and debate as to whether or not boxing would be included. And what the IOC needed to see was the boxing community rally around a new international federation rooted in sporting integrity and strong governance and transparency. And so in a relatively accelerated period of time,
right,
the boxing community really kind of gathered together, and credit to a lot of people, in particular the boxers. And we've got World Boxing, which has now been given recognition by the IOC and will govern Olympic boxing in LA 2028 and beyond.
I want to do the best I can to kind of save some things for President Lee to include when we do have him on. And I'm really, really sorry. Maybe he's even watching this episode, so I already apologize that he's not going to be on today. But a lot of initials are going to be thrown around through this episode when it comes to Olympic boxing. Tell everybody kind of, we have World Boxing now, what was in place before, and, when you refer to the IOC, that's the International Olympic Committee, kind of take us through, what's going on with some of these initials that people are going to start to see moving around the boxing world and the amateur boxing world.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll come right out and say that the previous international federation was AIBA, rebranded as IBA. And I don't want to touch on that too much, only because our mindset is we're moving forward, right?
Absolutely.
What's the past is the past, but IBA was initially suspended and then expelled from the Olympic movement in 2023, and sensing that a new federation needed to be formed to keep boxing in the Olympic Games. That's when some of the boxing federations around the world, including USA Boxing, stepped up and formed World Boxing, which, again, the International Olympic Committee, the IOC, has turned to say, you are the new organization to run and govern Olympic-style boxing. So I think a lot of people maybe don't understand that the IOC doesn't actually govern the competition or the qualification for Olympic events, right? They're the 5 rings. They oversee kind of the brand and all that, but they outsource the competitions to FIFA and FIBA and all these different international federations. So that's what World Boxing is for Olympic-style boxing now.
Go. Boom, boom. And I figured out how we're going to flip this so that we can give President Lee his space on the show. What we'll do with you, because you've been around the Olympic teams for how many quads now?
I was right after the 2016 Olympics, so really these last two, I've been involved for the program for a while.
I've been an advocate for amateur boxing, specifically, even more specifically, Olympic boxing for a long time. From your lens, why is amateur boxing and the Olympic boxing so important?
It's a great question. I think, first of all, what I would say is the reason why this is such an important move for boxing as a whole, particularly in the United States, is that USA Boxing is that governing body for all amateur boxing in the United States right now, right? And if boxing were not included in the Olympic Games, all of the resources that come from the U.S. Olympic Committee, and the U.S. Olympic Committee, I think, is by far the largest supporter and resources for USA Boxing.
Oh, wow.
but they would actually, by federal law, the Ted Stevens Act, not even be able to provide resources for USA Boxing if boxing were not on the program. So you think about a staff in Colorado Springs, a training center, coaching education, all of these elements that build up our infrastructure for amateur boxing in the United States. A lot of that would have gotten essentially removed if boxing were not in the Olympics. That's why another reason why, even at the grassroots level, it was such an important decision this week.
And a lot of pros still use those facilities that are used for the Olympians in Colorado Springs, like Terrence Crawford and Shakur Stevenson. They prepare for some of their biggest fights in those facilities, Chris, right? Because they know without a doubt there's going to be top young talent there to work with pretty much year round, right?
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. And Sean, we were talking earlier, right? When you were traveling internationally, right? I think just by having boxing in the Olympic Games, you give all these youngsters the opportunity to see different worlds that they otherwise may not have had a chance to, right? I think that one of the myths that was out there was people thought that the IOC, the Olympic Committee, they just want to get rid of boxing. That actually wasn't true. The Olympics love boxing, and they love it because there's a diversity in gender and racial diversity, economic diversity that you don't see in a lot of other sports. And you provide young men and women with that opportunity to rise out of their community in any circumstances and represent their country on a global scale. So it's just, it was so important that we kept this in the Olympic movement, and that's why it's such a relief, honestly.
Yeah. You shared a pretty cool story with me earlier when Tank Davis arrived over there in Paris for the games just last year. Everybody saw that he was there, and you said, he didn't do any like self-promoting while he was over there. Kind of tell us what you saw from Tank Davis representing the U.S. and also being a part of the team over there.
Yeah, I think it's just cool to see those really human moments from fighters that you see on pay-per-view and all that, right? So again, he wasn't there it didn't seem like he was there for any reason other than to support the athletes from Team USA. And after each and every fight, there's a meeting ground where the athletes and the coaches and the staff, everyone meets up and congratulates the fighter, and Tank would show up there and would shake everyone's hand, super polite, and just seemed he carried himself like he was lucky to be a part of all of that, which I just thought was really awesome. So shout out Tank. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, and then we were supposed to have Omari Jones on today. Pretty special moment when you win a medal, whether it's bronze, silver, gold. You have an opportunity you get another medal. Kind of tell us about that.
Yeah, so all of the medalists for Team USA across any sport, you have an opportunity to grant what's called the Order of Ecos, and it's a second medal that you give to somebody that's been a part of your journey and a part of your life that's helped you get to where you are. And it's celebrated. All the countries have their own houses at the Olympics. There's like a Team USA house, and it's a really cool place to watch all the other activities going on. And Omari gave it to his father, Carl, who I was lucky enough to spend time with over in Paris. And I always say for this last group of Team USA athletes, seeing the family support that they had and that structure around them and that support was awesome. And Omari and his family are no exception to that. So it was really cool to see.
Last one from me, and then we're going to move on to some professional boxing. If y'all got anything.
I was just saying the energy the last games, I thought the momentum was great. And for us to say they were losing it, how did you feel about that? Like, the support was behind it. Everybody was talking USA boxing.
Yeah, it's funny because when they made the decision this week about keeping boxing in the games, immediately people start thinking, like, who do we have to thank for this? It's the boxers. Like, what the boxers did in Paris and the way that they all showed out. And it was a great show. I think the medal rounds were at Roland Garros, right? Like a really famous athletic venue for tennis and all that. And the buzz was incredible. So it's the boxers. It's their ability to show up in the ring, give it their all, elevate that place to a great level. I mean, that's who we should all be thanking for keeping boxing in the Olympic Games.
Yeah, I think this news is just so important. It's can't stress the importance enough, because something like this would make the back pages of social media, but it really is so consequential that boxing gets to continue on in the 28 games, because Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's really not that far of an analogy. It'd be like if they banned March Madness and the NCAA tournaments for football and basketball. Those are the ecosystems that feed the pros. And, most of the greatest fighters that have come from this country medaled in not only competed in the Olympics, but medaled in the Olympics. So if this spigot of infrastructure, if that spigot was cut off, we would be in some serious trouble in the United States boxing landscape. So it may not have made waves that boxing is going to be at the 28 games, but it's very important, incredibly important.
Totally. And I also think the amateur scene, the Olympic scene, we have a lot of the professionals to thank actually for bringing awareness to a lot of this. And Shawn, obviously you're one of them and what you guys have been doing here, but Gennady Golovkin, as the president of the Olympic Committee of Kazakhstan, within the Olympic circles, doing a lot of work to really make sure that boxing stay in the games. Others like, the Klitschkos and even in the United States, we've had some athletes that have really spoken out about this. And so we have a lot of people to really thank for bringing this awareness to this issue.
And then, so who else is from a professional standpoint is involved in representing USA boxing? Richard Torres, I believe, right?
That's right.
Anybody else really?
Well, it's timely, right? Tiara Brown is a board member of USA Boxing and the new, right?
Yeah.
So,
WBC featherweight champion,
right?
Tiara Brown, right?
So
shoot, is that the segue? I had one more, and then now I'm forgetting it. Now I'm forgetting it. Oh,
right.
Right. Yeah.
To what?
I'm just dropping you that you beat the heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah. I did some things.
You the heavyweight champion of the world?
No, but I did some things.
We still need to find that fight. I understand that. We got to dig through the archives. And
nobody has that.
Right.
We got some archives though that we
Yes.
might we got. I got a glean. I got some hope with my man here and my man all the way over there. Last one for me, and I know we're gonna get a little bit more from Tyson Lee, President Tyson Lee, but tell us from your lens, from your standpoint, some of the work that was put in to get world boxing going and to get them to govern the Olympic boxing.
Yeah, so the three big areas that the International Olympic Committee wanted to see in order to feel comfortable that world boxing could be the governing body and therefore that boxing could be on the program. So it's governance. Do you have bylaws and a constitution and essentially rules and structures in place for free elections without interference, and all code of ethics, all of those documents and really those supporting structures? A lot of work went into that. A lot of not enough time to thank everyone who went into that. Transparency, particularly around finances, because when you have dollars coming in from a single source or from a single country, there's conflicts, right? And so we had to make sure that we have diversified sources of revenue. We were able to do that. There's some sponsors like Nike and others that have provided some funding and donations, et cetera.
Tell them we said hi.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. And then lastly, in terms of fairness in the field of play or sporting integrity, right? So it's not just do you have good judging, but it's, hey, when you have a fighter from America and a fighter from Thailand, making sure that we don't have 5 judges from Western countries or from Southeast Asian countries, right? And making sure that those procedures are all in place and that we were able to demonstrate that with some tournaments for world boxing recently that gave the IOC comfort that it's an organization run on sporting integrity, which hopefully then leads, we have to prove it, but it has to lead up to Olympic qualification and the Olympic Games.
Beautiful, man. Thank you for coming to represent world boxing, or USA boxing, and doing everything that you did as a volunteer. I kind of really want to point that out. This is something that a lot of people don't know. It's a lot of coaches around the world, not just America, but they volunteer their time to a lot of young athletes. The young athletes get big and they say, forget it, I ain't boxing no more. That coach is wasted. Not really, I hate to use the word wasted, but they're gone. 10, 15, 20 years is gone. And I know coaches personally that have been in this thing for 40, 50, 60 years, literally.
Never got a champion.
And has never had a champion. So.
Which would be their return on investment.
Exactly.
Right.
And so, for Chris over there to literally travel the world trying to promote WBO, trying to get other countries involved with WBO, simply because he believes in the sport. He believes, obviously you have a high level of integrity, but you believe that this is needed, and so I just want to, on behalf of the PorterWay Podcast, myself, everybody, man, thank you for your work and your involvement with world boxing.
Yeah, and thank you guys for bringing a ton of awareness to it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think again, you're probably one of the first outlets that that talked about this a few years ago. So we all, the whole amateur boxing community really appreciates what you guys have done for this too.
It's super, super cliche, but we've all heard this before. You're the future. That's what they tell the young kids. You're the future. So when I say Olympic boxing is the future of world championship boxing on a professional level, it truly is a fact of life, you know? So really, you know, you're preserving what, as Shawn said, could be lost, a lost art here in boxing. You know, you're paving a way or making sure that there's a way for some of these young kids to realize their dreams. And as we know, there's a lot that want to make it to the Olympic Games just so that they can get a bigger check when they turn pro.
Omari Jones gets fanfare. He gets couple thousand people showing up at his pro debut because he won a medal.
Exactly.
It sets you up for success.
Exactly.
And so, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I remember Floyd. I saw Floyd on, what was that old TV show on HBO? It's on the tip of my tongue. No, it's, oh man, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Entourage?
No,
Arliss. Kobe was on that too, right?
Yeah,
right,
he was on
right.
Arliss way back in the day. You know, they showed him that he had won a silver medal and all that kind of stuff. You know, it really does get you started. It's the engine starter for a professional career. So listen, everything that's going on with world boxing, we'll be getting a lot of that, if not all of it, from Chris Cugliari, as far as he can tell us and what he can, the information that he could provide us with. The 2028 games in Los Angeles officially will be hosting Olympic boxing, and that was big news for amateur boxing. And we are going to continue to follow that story the whole way, and hopefully we can make some other big stories out of all that. You know, some of the stuff I'm talking about. So,
well, Cleveland's had an Olympian for 5 straight Olympics, right?
Yeah,
we got to get a 6th now, right?
Yeah. And we will.
New York,
One more thing. We got a couple of Olympians returning. This is a big deal. Listen, it's a big deal when you return to an Olympic, or at least try to make that run for another Olympic. This is why I tell people, and I've said this about even professional boxing, where psychologically a lot of these judges are fixed to seeing certain things from certain fighters, and a lot of times Americans haven't gotten, it hasn't been that we haven't gotten a fair shot. It's just been simply that these judges and referees their eyes aren't fixed to us. There's no connection to who we are. But some of those guys, and I'm not saying Lomachenko didn't do his thing at the Olympic Games, but when you know who Loma is and he's returning for a second Olympic game, it's not that you have a favoritism towards him. I'm not saying that at all. You just know the name. You've seen the style before. You know the body language, and you know what that person can do. So when we have about 4 Olympians returning? 4
of the females, and then at least 2 of the males, I think.
Yeah.
That are part of the team, yeah.
So, I mean, we got a really promising future in LA, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really looking forward to it. I think, again, just encouraging everyone to please follow Team USA and also at the grassroots level. Again, this is the future of boxing.
There it is.